So let's just process it and then see what it looks like and then reassess from there. So let's go image, save, and we'll just call this process 4. Doesn't really matter. Save. Let's open up Photoshop and then just grab our render. So where's it? Desktop. Boom. This one. Attempt 3. And I also need to save the mist pass. So, and I also didn't add a lens distortion. Okay, let's do that. And it's probably going to lag my voice while I'm doing this, so I just won't talk. So lens distortion, just. Okay, there we go. So 0.055 is what I did, and we'll just take that. Just adds a little bit on the very edge. Really very subtle, but makes a difference. So let's just override the original. Doesn't matter. Just save it. Always be careful when doing that, but I know what I'm doing, so it's fine. And then let's also take the mist pass. So I'm just going to run the mist through a denoise into the lens distortion out, and then that will be it. And again, not going to talk because it's going to lag my voice if I try and talk. So okay, so let's save this. Just call it process 4 mist. Hit OK, and there we go. We've got it. I'm going to leave Blender open, but might have to close it if it gets too laggy. Let's pop this open. And let's grab our process 4, just drag and drop it in. Drag and drop this in, the mist pass. Wonderful, and let's go to channels, just grab this. I guess a better way of doing this is like, just put this on screen. You can use the curves to just adjust where this comes in, so boom. I don't really know where I want it, but I think it's gonna be cool if I have like this kind of isolated. So that might be a cool spot to have the mist pass. So let's leave it there. And then we can just use a hue saturation, drop it, clip it to this thing. So Alt click it down. Let's colorize that, and we'll just make it like, I guess I can't use the eyedropper if I, that's kind of the color that I wanted. So let's just drop this down to like there, -50 is a good spot. And then we'll just mask this in. So hit the mask, invert it, use my cloud brush, which again, I'll provide a link to this. And we'll just paint, that is not the right color. So let's desaturate that almost all the way. It might not even need this because we've already got so much cloudy stuff in here anyway, so probably don't need this, but just a little bit in there might be cool. Just see if that's bringing this in the direction I want or not. Let's just get rid of a bit of that. I don't need this down here. This looks wrong. It's fine, but like it looks really wrong. So let's see it. I don't know. Maybe just make that fade a little bit better there. Okay. And just kind of throw in a bit of this stuff here. So I'd say that's making it slightly better. So I'm just going to leave it. Maybe throw it on like 80%. Sure, that's fine. Okay, let's do a blur. So Control J on the background to duplicate. Filter, blur this one, however you say that. And let's do like 30, 40. This level of blur is going to be good. Throw it on screen. This might be very similar to the last Photoshop video in the course. So like I pretty much repeat the exact same process every time, the same set of steps. So in this one, we might not do lens distortion or lens bokeh, but it might be cool. So maybe I'll try it. But let's keep this to like around there. That's going to be a nice spot. And I actually might, I should probably explain what I'm actually doing with that. So if you double click on a layer, this is blend if, and it means it's going to blend between, there's two sliders. You get this layer and underlying layer. So, this one's blurred. So if I choose blend if this layer, we're choosing to exclude some information here. And you can see as I pull this up past this gray black range over here, it's getting rid of it in those values represented in the image here. So you can see if I pull it up to here, only stuff brighter than this point is going to get blended in. Everything else is going to get erased. Whereas if I bring it up here, only stuff that's brighter than this value here is going to get blended in. And that's based off of the values in the current layer. If I do it from this layer, it's going to do the same thing, just based off of the values from the underlying layer. So you could see, I want this to be on this layer because it's blurred. So I want it to be like overflowing a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do here. Also, you can see I'm splitting this handle and making a nice gradient of blending. If I hold Alt and then click the handle like this, I can just split that handle. It's a bit of a weird thing, a little hidden thing, but that's blend if. So very useful for that. Just hit OK. Let's mask this in. So just invert with the brush, or invert with, sorry, create a mask and invert the mask. Just go back to the soft round brush and then let's just paint that in on the areas we want. So a little bit on the clouds, but not too much. Like you can see in some of these areas, it's just becoming too much. So we'll just be careful with that. A little bit here, a little bit up here, and then I want some, a little bit more over here. Yeah, basically this thing can have a lot. And anywhere that's really, really bright, you can have it. Yeah, that's cool. So let's see what that's doing. That's the effect we've got. So nice. Basically just like the glare node, except a bit more customizable. Let's turn that down a little bit. I pretty much always find that I push these effects a little bit too far and it just always looks a little bit better if I just knock them down 30, 10, 20, 30%. And they all compound against each other and you notice them a lot more than you think once you add them all together. But one by one, you might just want to knock them down a little bit because at least I tend to just put them on a little too strong. Okay, let's do some dodging and burning. So curves, adjustment layer, pull this down. So we want some areas darker, some areas lighter. Before I do this, I actually like to Control-Alt-Shift-E, duplicate everything and merge it all into one layer. So it's the same as selecting all layers, duplicate all of them, merge them all together. Just a shortcut for that. And then let's flip it horizontally and just check out if this image is actually balanced or not. It's a bit of a weird composition with this thing kind of offset in the clouds, but I think it's not bad. I might crop it in this way, like pull it, if we just go 4x5, pull it in like this so it's a little bit more balanced. I think that would be good. But I'll deal with that after. I think it might actually be fine without that. And then this way, you know, you can line up this corner with like the rule of thirds so that this corner of this thing is right there. Don't think that matters that much. It's not going to make it so much better if I do that, but whatever. It's a little bit, it feels a little bit lopsided right now. So I think that crop is going to be a positive change. Could re-render, but not really worth it. So anyways, let's take our curves. So I'm not actually going to crop it yet. I'm just going to keep that in mind for later, but just know that I probably will end up doing that at the end. But this is also just a good method to find out like what areas need to be darker and what areas need to be lighter. Sometimes it really reveals that very obviously to you. Sometimes it's not as obvious. In this one, it's not quite as obvious, but maybe when in doubt, just make the edges a little darker and it'll always pretty much look good. It's a bit much there. So not a huge difference, but something. Let's do the opposite with this one. So just make this a little bit brighter. And then I want to make the areas that I want to give more attention, just to make those a little bit brighter. So like this, maybe some of the clouds. Let's just get rid of that. Make these clouds a little bit more dramatic in what gets shown and what doesn't. So maybe this area. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we could even do that with this in like the dark areas of the clouds, like maybe make that a bit more dramatic, or this, or like around here. That's kind of cool. So you can see if I highlight both, if I toggle those both on and off, here's on, just makes it a little bit more dramatic. I might take this down to like 80%. I usually overdo it. So I don't know, something like that. Same with this, just so it's not so obvious what is happening. Okay, now let's look at the original versus what we've done so far. So everything's been a subtle effect so far, but when you add them all together, all of a sudden things change quite a bit. Okay, I think we could do, let's do particles for sure. So photos, particles pack. You'll have access to this somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where, but maybe in some resources section, or maybe I'll just link it below if that's not a thing. So I'm just going to drop in the same, pretty much only use one image from this entire pack, if I'm being honest. That's a bit bad, but this one, it's just the best. Particles 2, so dropping that one in, and let's just put it on screen, and there we go. That looks really sick already. Let's maybe blend it out of some of the very dark areas. So I'm going to double click on that underlying layer, just take it out of some of these areas, and then just feather that a little bit. So it's not in like the pitch black areas quite so much, but you know, still in like the dark grays, so it's good. Again, maybe flip that horizontally, and then let's just turn, I actually kind of liked it this way. Let's turn it down to, when I bring this through the camera raw filter, I've probably mentioned this before, but it's going to really bring out those particles when I add sharpening and clarity and all that stuff. So I'm going to make this barely visible, just so it's some subtle movement, but it's not, you can't really tell what's going on. So that's going to be good right there. 40% should be fine. And then let's try lens dirt. So photos, let's go, where is it? Useful, Action VFX. I'll give you a link to this pack. I did not make this, but this is a free pack from Action VFX. They have paid packs too, but I'll just give you a link to where you can find this from their site. Let's take one of these. I like this one, so rotate 90, scale that up, drop it in, and throw it onto screen. So this might work really well in this case because it kind of looks like it just rained, and the lens is like, the camera lens is still kind of wet, so kind of like that effect. Just pull this back a little bit, the saturation, just hue saturation, clip to that layer only, just drop it back a little bit. And then let's see if it looks better if I flip it horizontally. Not a huge difference, it doesn't really matter. Let's mask that, invert the mask, make sure we're on soft round brush, and then just paint it into like the areas where you want. So around here, I just don't want it to be like too obvious like that. Just keep it subtle, not distracting, so that it's just a nice little thing on top, but it's not like, I don't want people to get distracted because I added too much lens dirt. Like, it would just suck if everything was perfect except I added like too much dirt on the lens. Like, that'd be such a stupid little thing, so I just don't want that to be too distracting, but a little bit is nice, so something like that. Maybe a little bit more saturation. I don't know, I think that's a good amount. Let's even drop that to 80% again. And that just, again, dials it back just a little bit to where it's not going to be too extreme. One thing with this, I don't like this thing right here. Let's just clone stamp that out, or do a quick content aware fill. So just content aware fill, just wait for this box to come up. Hit OK, it should be fine. And I think the mist pass had it too, so I'm gonna content aware fill a mist pass. I think that should work. I think I have to rasterize it though, so it's rasterize layer, and now fill, content aware fill. Are you kidding me? Not enough source pixels? Are you serious? Okay, disable mask, leave the opacity where it was. Fill. Okay, fill, content aware, this should work. There we go. Okay, so now we don't have a hole in it, and let's just enable the mask again. Enable everything else, and oops, not that one. Okay, there we go. That is dealt with. So just get rid of that little thing. Okay, I think we're ready to bring this into the camera raw filter now. So let's select the top layer, hit Control-Alt-Shift-E again to duplicate all layers, merge them all into one layer. And now we can run this layer through the camera raw filter. So this is where things get fun. Convert for smart filters, because like I said before, if you don't convert it for smart filters, you will not be able to edit the changes in here, and there's tons of different sliders and buttons, so we have to, that's very important. Filter, convert for smart filters first, and then once it's a smart object, now we can go into the camera raw filter. And we're basically at this point, you can just go crazy, just make it look as good as we can, then get out, and it'll be much better. So let's just play with this and see what's going to look best. Exposure down looks a little bit cool. Maybe contrast up slightly. Not too much, but a little bit. So maybe go clarity up a little bit, like this. Make sure I'm still recording. We can do texture up a little bit, but I don't really know if I want too much of that. That's going to be kind of sick though. A little bit more saturation. Let's alt click the blacks, bring those down so that the black pixels are just starting to come through like that. Same with the whites. We can just pull that up until we start to see it starts clipping. But that might be too much. It might be a little too much. It's nice to have areas that are like fully white and areas that are fully black in image, like a full dynamic range, but I wouldn't say it's 100% necessary for every single image, but maybe we can do it by like changing the highlights instead. I don't know. We'll see what works best, but yeah, I think that's cool there. So let's maybe see if I take the shadows down. That's fine there. I don't think we need the whites that high. It just looks like it's too much in this one, so we can take that down a little bit. Dehaze, not going to touch that. Just leave it on 0. Vibrance, I don't think I need to touch that. Maybe a little bit more saturation, but I don't think it matters. There's this one square of like yellow in here that's a bit too saturated for me. I'm just going to take a brush, paint over this area, a little bit here, a little bit there, and then just drop the saturation a little bit because I don't like how that looks. Just make sure this is getting filled in properly, and then yeah, just desaturate that. Maybe make it a bit cooler slightly, and that's gonna just maybe let's take the exposure down in that area a little bit as well, just so it's not so visible. Okay, and then I didn't need to click that. Let's go back here and then figure out the rest. So sharpening up, you can bring that up pretty high. You don't have to go so crazy in the sharpening like this, but I think it's fun. So I'm gonna do it and then just bring this masking up a little bit. That looks pretty nice. It's a little bit over sharpened, but drop that back a little bit, it's fine. Throw in some grain, not too much, but just like that, it's gonna be sick. Yeah, like that. Vignette down slightly, midpoint up slightly. That's what it's doing. Let's move to the color calibration and kind of like this cloudy color it's got already. I don't think I need to do too much in here. I don't really want it super saturated or anything, but I'm just gonna move these sliders and see if one direction looks better than the other. I kind of like this green, what it's doing. It looks cool up, but it also looks cool down, so I don't really know what I want to do with that, but maybe just leave it on 0 and turn up the saturation. That's pretty cool. Let's try color grading and we can add some blue into the shadows or maybe something like that. Let's just see. Maybe just a little bit of that. I don't know, but I might take that off. I don't really like that. And let's just go back here and just see if the temperature is going to make a difference. Sometimes it's cool to mess with this a little bit, but sometimes it just looks bad. I think in this case, just bad, so let's not touch that. This one, same thing, I think. Maybe up, like 1 or 2. The temperature of our light in Blender was a little bit weird, so I might just take this one up slightly. And let's just go before and after, and I think we've done all positive changes, so that's good. Maybe a little bit too much on the vibrance. So there, I think we're at a good point to hit OK on this. And there we go. That makes it look a lot nicer, so sweet. And then this image from Unsplash, not the best quality. I probably should have watched out for that, but I can deal with that by just kind of taking the clarity and sharpness and texture down a little bit in that area. So let's just jankily deal with this. New mask, brush in this. And then let's take the clarity down, texture down, sharpness down, and that will just soften that out a little bit. I don't need it that extreme, but let's just toggle this on and off. So yeah, just bringing out some weird artifacts by increasing the clarity too much. I'm taking it down the other way. And there we go. Looks a bit better, so just hit OK on that. And it's pretty much fixed. A little messy, but it's fine. Throw on a lookup table, color lookup, and just choose one of these, and we can just scroll through them and find one that looks cool. So let's just go down to like this one. I kind of like this one, so I might just stick with that. Let's do one final curves, and then I'm going to crop it, and then we should be done at that point. So maybe this up, just a very slight S curve, and then just take this up slightly. I don't even really like that. Let's just drop it down to like 20%, slightly on there, barely making a difference. Okay, let's crop this in like I was mentioning. So I think that is going to be a nice spot right there. Just pull that up, and then I think we should maybe pull that in slightly more. That looks like a good spot to crop it, I think. Doesn't need to be perfectly centered, but I think that's a good spot right there. Yeah, I might re-render this and have it centered. I'm not really sure at this point. I've been staring at this image for so long. I might tweak some little things here and there. The saturation of this up here. Maybe let's do that right now. Actually, let's go hue saturation. Just drop that a little bit. Brush, invert the mask, and then brush it in here. Just looks like a little bit too much. So yeah, I'm gonna call it there for now. I'm just gonna take a break. This is pretty much done in my opinion, but I might come back and tweak things. But I'll just put up the final image here. I'm not gonna be tweaking anything that extreme. So I'd say this is pretty much done. You got to see how I made 99% of this. If I don't, if I change something, which I might not even do. So yeah, super happy with how this one turned out. I really like these clouds. I think I haven't really tried it like with this technique before, so I'm really glad that worked out. I could be a bit more optimized with like the direction of light and all that, but not bad for the first time, and I think it looks sick. So yeah, I think we're good here. I am going to take a break now, come back in a few hours, reassess, and if I change anything, I'll just write out what I did. It won't be anything crazy though. Okay. Yeah, with that being done, I will see you in the next one.